Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. So today is a very exciting day. We're going to be talking about the future of the MCU. There's a big change that's going to be happening to the MCU potentially, and a lot of people have already covered this, and I know I'm a little late to the table, but Jonathan Majors is officially out as Kang, and a lot of people have kind of speculated what that means for the future of the MCU. Are they going to keep the Kang storyline? Are they going to switch the villain? What's going to happen with it? I'm here to give you guys my 2 cents on what I think they should do, and then on top of that, I'm going to be fan casting specific characters for specific roles, and I'm kind of explaining what I think these characters can do for the MCU specifically, where they would fit in, what kind of TV shows they would show up in, what kind of movies they would show up in, and what I think Marvel should do for the next 3-4 years to kind of make this Kang storyline work. Because I personally think that the Kang storyline is very interesting, and they should definitely keep Kang Dynasty as the title for the Avengers 5 movie, and I think that there's a specific thing that I want them to do with Avengers 5, and I think it would be a little bold, but I really want it to happen. So that being said, we're going to dive right into this video. So, right off the bat, I want to go ahead and say, I have already kind of explained that, I think that Kang the Conqueror should be the main story going forward. I think that they should stick with that story. I think it's too good of a story and too good of a concept for them to give up on it now. And I definitely think that if they give up on it now, it's just going to show that Marvel is scared to stick to their guns, which I think they kind of need to prove right now that they have an idea, that they know what they're doing. And I know that a lot of their Kang the Conqueror stuff that they wanted to do really resided on the fact that they had Jonathan Majors, a really good young and upcoming actor who is going to be able to carry the franchise a little bit. But I think that that's kind of one thing that Marvel messed up with, was just relying on one person to overly carry the entirety of the MCU. Jonathan Majors was not Robert Downey Jr. They shouldn't have expected him to be able to hold the entire MCU on his shoulders like that, but there's a way that I think they can continue with the Kang storyline going forward and make it very interesting. So for one, I definitely think that they should really dive deep into the fact that Kang the Conqueror is kind of like a whack-a-mole. You hit one, another one comes up. It's kind of like a Hydra, where you cut one head off and then a couple of heads grow back. That's the kind of storyline you can do with Kang the Conqueror, and I feel like having Kang the Conqueror around as somebody who could be kind of a threat and a nuance for these people to have to fight is fun. I think that he's an incredibly interesting character, and there's definitely a lot of things that they can do to make him interesting. And I think that one thing specifically that they kind of failed with was deciding to make all of the variants in the end credit scene for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania all look like Jonathan Majors. I think that that was a dumb idea. They should have made the variants look like a lot of different other people. They should have had casted other people for specific roles on the Kang, Council of Kangs, but they didn't, and I do think that that's going to be a problem. So the first thing I want to talk about is how I think they should easily retcon that. I feel like with I was about to say Daredevil instead of Deadpool. With Deadpool 3 coming up, there is a very easy way that they could quickly retcon all of this, and I think that there's a way that they could do it, and it'd be really cool and kind of introduce us to a new Kang variant that would be very scary. But what I think they should do in this one is, in the post-credit scene for Deadpool 3, obviously I haven't seen the movie, I have no idea how the movie's going to end, but I'm assuming it's going to end with Wade Wilson being alive and still kind of having like a bunch of super cool powers and breaking the fourth wall. And I think that the way that they should end it should be similar to how they ended Deadpool 2, with him going around and kind of like changing timelines, killing the Ryan Reynolds that was going to do the Green Lantern movie, and like killing the old version of himself and stuff like that. I feel like it could be a cool way for them to get rid of the Council of Kangs, is just having Deadpool in a post-credit scene go through and wipe out the entire Council of Kangs. But I think that that shouldn't be where it ends. I think it should end with another bigger, more powerful Kang noticing this, taking notice to this, and kind of, while Wade Wilson is breaking the fourth wall by doing this, he breaks Wade Wilson breaking the fourth wall. Kind of like that moment in What If Season 1 when Ultron Infinity kind of was aware of the Watcher. It'd be something like that. It'd be showing immediately how powerful this specific Kang variant is by having him break a fourth wall break. I think that She-Hulk has kind of done a really bad job with starting the MCU off with characters that could break the fourth wall. They made her too powerful. She was doing stuff that literally fucked up reality, in my opinion. And one way that they can kind of take that back is having a supervillain who is so powerful that you can't really break the fourth wall around him, because he's more powerful than the characters who can break the fourth wall. I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense, but basically what I'm pitching here is the end credit scene for Deadpool 3. He goes, wipes out the entire Kang Dynasty or whatever, that all looks like Jonathan Majors, and then we have another actor step into the role and kind of like get Wade Wilson, maybe not kill him, but like grab him and like start a fight with him or whatever, have a little fight sequence that ends with Wade Wilson panicking and fucking leaving, and then it would end with Ryan Reynolds having some funny one-liner being like, what the shit was that? Or something, and then that'd be the end of the movie. I think that one, it'd be a great way to set up a new Kang actor, and for two, I think that it'd be just overall an interesting way to kind of handle the Jonathan Majors situation without it necessarily feeling meaningless, because I know a lot of people just want them to just retcon it just cause, but I feel like if we have a scene like that, it would retcon it in a way that works, and it would introduce us to a new villain, which would be super powerful, which I know a lot of people want them to do that with like Doctor Doom or something. No Doctor Doom. I think that Kang the Conqueror can still work. So that's my pitch for how we quickly solve the Jonathan Majors Kang issue. And here is now the main part of this video that I want to get into. I have 5 main Kang variants that I think they should focus on in the MCU, that I think they should introduce, that could be really cool and really fun and really exciting, and I think that they should each be played by a different actor. And I have these specific characters, what shows and stuff I think they should show up in, and on top of that, I have the fan casting that I have for each of those versions. So let's dive right into this. Okay, so for starters, I want to start off on kind of a smaller scale here. I kind of want to start off with a character who I think isn't necessarily as well known unless you are a diehard comics fan, and one that I think could play a role in some of the street level side of New York. I'm talking about Mr. Gryphon. For people who do not know this variant of him, he's kind of just like a businessman. There's a lot of things about him in the comics that I feel like don't really need to show up in the movies. I think that what they should do with him is make him very simply a businessman who is very successful, have him be the person who bought the Avengers Tower, have them have the Kang building in New York, and I think that a way that they could interestingly have him come into the MCU is having him be one of the people who's running for the mayor of New York versus Wilson Fisk, and have them kind of like have them butting heads throughout the Daredevil show. If ever Wilson Fisk is doing debates and stuff like that, this is going to be his main person who he's up against, and I think that's something that would be really interesting to show off how powerful Mr. Gryphon is Wilson Fisk kind of goes up to him after a debate, they try to butt heads, and Wilson Fisk, tries to fight him, and then we find out Mr. Gryphon is really strong or something, or he has some kind of powers, he has some kind of like Iron Man type tech or something interesting that makes him, somebody who can combat Wilson Fisk, who is supposed to be an incredibly strong character, and I think that that's just the main place I see Mr. Gryphon potentially fitting into the MCU. You'd see him in as like kind of a background character in shows like Daredevil Born Again, potentially see him in the background of Spider-Man 4. I don't think that he'd be necessarily a big character, but he'd be a variant of Kang who diehard fans would recognize as a variant of Kang, and he's somebody who could potentially just help us feel more of the presence of somebody who's threatening, looking over, the multiverse and stuff like that. So that is my pitch for what Mr. Gryphon could do in the MCU, and my casting decision for who should play him is William Jackson Harper. And I know some people are going to say, but Blake, he plays Quasm in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. No one cares. That movie was not that good, and I think that it absolutely wasted an incredibly talented actor, and if they're already picking, specific people to play Reed Richards, I think that they should get William Jackson Harper somewhere in here where he can be an incredibly smart character. He's showed before in different shows and movies that he can play the smartest man in the room really well, and he has a lot of confidence, he has a lot of moxie, and I think that him as Mr. Gryphon would be fantastic. And like I said, I think that he would play more of a role kind of in some of the street level stuff with New York. I think that they really need to get back to focusing on, like, here's New York City, here's the crime and stuff that's going on in New York City, and I feel like he can kind of be one of those mob bosses who, like I said, butts heads with Wilson Fisk, and I think it'd be interesting. It's not going to be anything super over the top or anything absolutely crazy, but I think it'd be just kind of like something that'd be like a wink and a nod to the MCU fans. Hey, this is a Kang variant. Okay, but now the next one, this one's a little more complicated because there's a couple of ways I can see him fitting in, and one way would obviously be the Fantastic Four, because I'm talking about Pharaoh Rama. I think that he's an incredibly cool version of Kang, and I think that he's somebody who has a lot of range and potential in where he could show up, how he could show up, but I do think that it would be really interesting in Fantastic Four if we were able to either see a fight sequence against Pharaoh Rama Tut, or we could have some kind of hint that they fought Pharaoh Rama Tut or something like that. And part of the reason I want him to be in the MCU is because that could be an easy way to connect the Fantastic Four to Moon Knight, and then potentially if Moon Knight has these interactions with Fantastic Four and they know each other, they could potentially help each other out and show up together in a Avengers team, because the current Avengers lineup, who we're seeing is teased for Avengers 5, is not great. And I think that it's lacking a Moon Knight, and I think that if the Fantastic Four exist and are in our universe by the time that Avengers 5 comes out, they should show up in it. That's my main idea for Pharaoh Rama Tut. I think he could show up in a Fantastic Four movie, but if he doesn't, here's where I think things could get really fun with Avengers 5. I think that Avengers 5 is probably going to be the last Avengers movie before Secret Wars, of course, that is in the universe that we currently are in. Like, I feel like the 616, something's going to happen. It's going to change drastically. They're going to be completely rebooting Marvel after Secret Wars. And I think that part of the reason they're going to do that is because they've gotten to a point where it's so unrealistic and it's not a world that we could theoretically actually live in. And I think that stuff like the first Iron Man movie worked really well because it felt like a world we could connect to and we could relate to. Stuff like Age of Ultron still kind of felt like it's something that could happen in real life. And I feel like Marvel's kind of slipped further and further away from that, and they want to reboot so that they can kind of have it take place in a more realistic Earth. I feel like they would gain a lot from rebooting the MCU, and I feel like before they do that, they should toy around with the fact that we have so many fun things that we can do right now that are so unrealistic. Like, the heroes know how to time travel, and I feel like there's a lot of cool stories that can be told with that. For one, time travel is a great plot device, and now that Loki Season 2 has kind of gotten rid of the TVA, there is no TVA. There's no, hey, I went back in time and I did this illegal thing or whatever. There's nobody who's going to stop you and prune you and change the timeline, whatever. You can actually go back in time and make changes to the timeline now, and that's something that a lot of people aren't talking about. I think that that's one of the biggest implications from Loki Season 2 that hasn't been talked about enough. They could time travel now, theoretically go back in time, take back somebody from the dead, and it not affect the past universe or this current universe, because Loki's currently making sure that all the branches and stuff can continue to grow. And I think that it'd be really interesting if in Avengers Kang Dynasty, there are kind of like 3 sets of Avengers team. One that's in current day, one that's back in ancient times fighting Pharaoh Rama Tut, and then one that either is in the future or something like that. Because I think that it'd be really interesting to have a group of some of them who think that they're really smart and high tech go to the future and realize how outdated their technology is. I think that in some of the animated shows where we've seen Kang the Conqueror, it is really interesting seeing some of our heroes go to the future, and they're fighting alongside like future people who are trying to be heroes, and they see that they are very they have the underhand. So I think that it's a cool like underdog story. I don't know, that's just my take. I think that Kang Dynasty, Avengers 5, if they continue to keep it Kang's Dynasty, should have a team like that. I think that, like I said, we could introduce Fantastic Four with Moon Knight, have that be kind of a team that goes back and fights Pharaoh Rama Tut, and then we could have the Young Avengers fighting a current version of Kang the Conqueror, and then we have the main Avengers fighting a future version of Kang the Conqueror, something like that, right? But that being said, that's another place where I could see Pharaoh Rama Tut fitting in, is if they do that version of Kang Dynasty where they have a team fighting, a past version of Kang, it would be Pharaoh Rama Tut, which makes sense. So, all that being said, sorry, I kind of rambled on a lot about that, but I think that Avengers 5 can still be really cool if they keep it a Kang story, and I just kind of want to share why I think it could be cool. But my fan casting for Pharaoh Rama Tut is Lakeith Stanfield. I think Lakeith Stanfield is an incredible actor. I think that he does a really good job of playing somebody who's a non-believer at the beginning of the movie and a believer at the end of the movie. And I think that this is where him potentially being in a Avengers 5 would be really cool, is if they show Pharaoh Rama Tut not necessarily wanting to team up with the other Kang variants. And he's a very non-believer. He doesn't think that that's a good plan. But then over the course of the movie, he sees why the Kangs need to fight together and stick together, because there's an Avengers that is trying to wipe them out. And over the course of the movie, he slowly becomes more confident and kind of connects with the other people a lot better. And I think it'd be really interesting. And I just think Lakeith Stanfield is such a talented actor that either Marvel or DC should try to scoop him up as fast as possible, because he's incredible. But yeah, on to the next one. Okay, now this is one that I don't really see how it would happen either. This is one that I don't really see how he would show up in the MCU, but it is one of the most iconic versions of the character, so I feel like they should do it. But Immortus in the comics, he's a really ridiculous looking version, but he's the oldest one. He's one that survives for a really long time, and that's kind of one of his big things. It's just he survives. And I think that Immortus is an interesting character. I definitely think that there's stuff that they could do with it, but I want him potentially in the MCU to just be like the wisest version of Kang and somebody who kind of is like a captain, but not necessarily joining them in the fight or anything like that. He's somebody they can go to for advice or anything like that. And I would want Immortus to be played by Denzel Washington. I think Denzel Washington is an incredible actor. Obviously, would be probably the biggest, highest profile actor to ever do a Marvel project if he was down for it. And I think that he would play a relatively small role in Kang Dynasty that I just kind of laid out with the 3 different timelines going on. I think that he'd be one who's kind of like helping the 3 connect, because if they're going to be in different time periods, they need some way to kind of have an understanding of what's going on in the different time periods and understanding, you know, who's winning what fight and what's going on and where it's happening. And I think that this Immortus character can kind of be like the all-knowing and super wise Kang who's kind of like guiding them each in their own little versions. So that's my little pick for that. I just wanted to throw Denzel Washington's name in the mix because he would be a great actor to play a version of Kang, and I think he would be fantastic. Now, this next one, I really hope they do this character. If they don't do this character, they are missing out on such an incredible opportunity. But Ironlad should show up in the MCU. He should be a part of the Young Avengers. If they end up doing something like the Young Avengers versus Thunderbolts, which I don't understand why a lot of people think that's what's happening, but a lot of people think, for some reason, that that's what the Thunderbolts movie is going to be. But either way, if they end up doing a Young Avengers movie, I feel like, for one, right now, all of the Young Avengers are females except for Spider-Man, but Spider-Man might not even be showing up in it. Obviously, we have, I think his name's like not Iron Patriot. It might just be called like Patriot or something like that. I don't know. Isaiah Bradley's nephew. He could potentially be showing up in this, but the big thing is we don't know why he would at this point. So, personally, I think that you need more men on the Young Avengers team, for one. And for two, I think that having a character like Ironlad is so complicated and interesting, and he would bring a lot to the team dynamic as somebody who's very, what's it called? A complex character, for sure. And I think that him finding out during a Young Avengers movie would be that he is a Kang variant would be incredibly interesting, and them having to deal with that conflict would be really cool. And overall, I think that Ironlad would just be such a great character to see, and potentially like an Armor Wars show, maybe an Ironheart, but Ironheart's already done shooting, so I don't know why I said it. But my fan casting pick for Ironlad would be Caleb McLaughlin. I might have just pronounced his name wrong, but the guy who plays Lucas from Stranger Things, I think he's an incredible actor. I've seen him in so many different things. And once again, this is one of those characters, this is one of those actors where it's like, I think that either the MCU or the DCEU should try to get him as soon as possible, because he's very talented. He's a very gifted he's a very gifted character, and I think he could play the complexity that I think this character needs. He needs somebody who is kind of like scared of his future and what his future holds, and somebody who can kind of like tell the people around him, hey, if it gets to that point, please kill me, like, and having those conversations that are very emotional and impactful. And he plays emotional roles incredibly well, and I think he's a very talented actor. And yeah, but now we've got one more, and this one's kind of the super basic one, so let's get into it. Okay, and now for this final version, we got Prime Kang. This one, in my opinion, would kind of be like a continuation of the Kang from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I feel like the way that they had him kind of go into a probability field, and in the end of the movie, kind of was setting it up that he's going to come out bigger, stronger, better, faster, and he's going to be the Prime Kang. So we were talking about Prime Kang. What I think his role would be in this one is being the main Kang who the people are going to be fighting. I think that he could be the one who is in the future who they're having to fight. I think that he'd be incredibly powerful, incredibly smart, and the reason I said this is the basic one is because there's already been a lot of talks and a lot of rumors going around Hollywood that Coleman Domingo is going to be playing the role of Kang and going forward in the MCU, and I think Coleman Domingo would be incredible for this version of Kang. I think somebody who's gone through a lot of hardship, somebody who's tried for decades and decades to get out of the quantum realm and has never really succeeded, and somebody who's just genuinely pissed at the world and now coming back with all this range, but because he was in that probability field or whatever, that probability hex, he's learned a lot, and he's very smart. And I definitely think that Coleman Domingo has that that strength to him. For one, in his acting performances, he's an incredibly like strong person, and he has that presence that he could definitely be kind of like the most interesting man on the screen every time you see him. And I just think that he has something to him that makes him feel like just a brilliant and smart man, and he's somebody who would definitely be an incredible threat for the Avengers to potentially face. So that's my pick for Prime King. Obviously, Coleman Domingo. He's already rumored to be playing the role. I think he is perfect, and if he is actually going to be playing the role, Marvel, you did a great job. He's a fantastic actor. But now, just to kind of like recap all of the actors who I picked and what I think their roles would be, I'm just kind of going to speed run this. In my opinion, Kang Dynasty, Avengers 5 should still be Kang Dynasty, and I think that it should take place with 3 different teams fighting a Kang from 3 different timelines, all at the same time consecutively. And I think that there's a comic book where they do this, and the whole thing is they have to kill Kangs like pretty much at the same time or something like that, or he will just be reborn in another version. So I think that the way that this would play out potentially is, like I said, there being a young Avengers team who is currently fighting Mr. Gryphon, the current modern-day Kang the Conqueror variant, who lives in New York. I feel like he could kind of potentially be like an Iron Man-esque character where he has some form of like suits and stuff like that, and he has some kind of tech weapons that they'll have to figure out a way to kind of get around to beat him in a fight. And then we will have characters like the Fantastic Four and Moon Knight going back in time to fight Pharaoh Rama Tut. I think that can be an incredibly cool action set piece, and I think that Pharaoh Rama Tut should be played by Lakeith Stanfield, and I forgot to say it, but the Mr. Gryphon in modern day would be played by William Jackson Harper in this version. And then the main Avengers lineup with, you know, Captain America, Falcon, Bucky Barnes potentially if he shows up for this, Captain Marvel, those people would be fighting against Kang Prime in probably some like distant future, the 30th century, whatever it is, and it's going to be Coleman Domingo's Kang the Conqueror. And I think that would be an interesting what's it called? I think something else that they could do with that would be really cool is I think in the Avengers Assembled TV show, whenever they did their Kang run, when they went to the future, they teamed up with an old version of Thor, and I think that would be really cool, is if we have our current Avengers lineup, who is rumored to be the Avengers lineup, with, you know, Shang-Chi, Wong, She-Hulk, Hulk, Captain America, Falcon, Captain Marvel, all those characters or whatever, go to the future to fight this person, and then they find out that Thor is kind of leading a rebellion with some other young future characters who can meet, and I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be really cool. I think that this movie would have to definitely be at least 2 hours and 35 minutes long, though, because that's going to be a lot of different stories to try to tie up in a short amount of time. But that being said, I think it's totally possible. I think it'd be cool. And yeah, that was it for this video, guys. I'm sorry that I rambled on a lot. I had all these ideas in my head, and I tried writing them down, and I was like, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm just going to record the video and hope that it comes out all right, and I hope it came out all right. If you're still here, I think that means I did something right. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow, bow, bow.
He wanted me to trouble first, I did this. He planned the day, and then we did this. Want to be in love with the girls with the kisses. Don't give a damn, I'll rid this. I like this when I run the distance. I run the 5K and go ballistics. I want to live within the business. Buy more than what's on the clearances. You're getting big because I know you're a physicist. I want to deny this shit. I'm unlimited.